Today, Heather and I finished It Takes Two, but it takes three for ChillPoint. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome to ChillPoint. How are you doing?
I mean, I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
I'm excited because we're finally at this point in the proceedings.
Yay!
They're so close together.
Here. There we go.
Oh! Yeah, I've seen people in the chat being like, "Oh, now they can't be separated because they can be in the same room." And I'm like, "We've always been in the same room." Personally, I like being in my own little square.
Yeah.
And I like being on the other side of Paul because I like having the weird like extendo arm.
All right, we'll go back.
Like
yeah.
it's so much cooler.
Sorry, I had an arm going through my ear there for a sec. Hey, everybody.
Did you break it?
No, I think it's been broken for a while.
That's what someone who would break it.
It's just the shock. One of the arms in the shock mount has just come loose, so I'm just trying to fix it.
Oh yeah, those shock mount little elastics are such a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about video game news, and also talk about this week's episode of CheckPoint, which was is up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/loadingreadyrun. And you can, as it showed there at the beginning, one of the big deal from a meta perspective in this week's CheckPoint was that we moved Graham and Beige closer together, which apparently looks weird to a lot of people now.
Yeah, it looks weird to me too, Paul.
I like the people who are like, but the popping sounds. I was really used to the popping sounds.
Well, I was just like, I had to go back and like look at an old CheckPoint and be like, how close do they normally sit? Because like this seems so normal now.
Yeah,
it makes for a nicer shot than the wider
it does
view.
Make for a nicer shot.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Maybe we won't have to pull ourselves apart again, but I mean, like we said at the end of the episode, unless things start to take a step backwards, we think that all we're doing now is just taking steps forward.
We hope that's what we get to do. We don't that we don't have to go backwards again, but that what that means is you get to see two people doing their streams if those two people are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Which means you're not going to see me and Ian in Rhythm Cafe together for a couple weeks yet, because we've picked a date, and it's not tomorrow.
Yep.
Or I mean Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I forgot what day of the week it was again.
It's
definitely not tomorrow, because tomorrow's Saturday.
And yeah, so we're taking it slow. We're making sure that we're doing everything we can to be as diligent as possible. But obviously, we are. As well, I would probably say we're more excited to do it than you are to see it. So, yeah, hopefully that will keep coming. But for now, let's talk about this week's episode of CheckPoint, about the actual stories that we did. Starting with the Among Us / Fortnite news, which is that Fortnite introduced a new mode called Imposters that is very much Among Us.
Yeah.
And
it's too close to Among Us to be like, oh, we thought of this on our own.
And Graham talked about it. It's like, yeah, Among Us is, werewolf or mafia or whatever. Like, obviously,
those are.
Among Us is not a new concept, or the gameplay of Among Us is not a new concept, but the idea of doing all the little tasks the like calling the emergency meetings, the like a lot of the things that make Among Us different from just playing werewolf or whatever are the things that are in the new Fortnite thing.
Yeah.
The layout of the
Yeah.
map too, which is I love the I saw in the in like he posted the developer posted like the layout of the map in Among Us versus Fortnite, and some people were like, I don't really see it the same, but when you actually like look at the like the shapes of the rooms are not necessarily that similar, but like
Yeah.
the track, the orientations and like how they connect together is very similar.
Yeah, and that might not have been a big deal if they hadn't also ripped off their mini games from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And it's also like I saw some people like responding being like, well, I mean, if you're gonna make a mafia werewolf style game, like you gotta have, like there's certain ways that the map has got to be to make it work. And I'm like, I I don't think that it's like Among Us came up with the one map that works in this mode, and
Yeah.
now
I mean,
everybody has to copy
and,
it.
And let's also be fair. Among Us has been a very hot game over the pandemic to have like streamers play because it's a multiplayer thing. Fortnite, I assume, has also been probably really a thing for a lot of people because of the in-game chat and hanging out with your friends and playing those kinds of games. And Fortnite is not afraid to do uh, collaborations, and it's just like you could
It's-
have just done
The
Like,
collabs
the
always seem to
collab.
be with, it's like, we can't just wholesale steal this from these people because we know that they'll sue us. Like, we can't just put Thanos in our game because we know Marvel will have our ass. It's like, right, so let's do a collab. It's like, well, we can't just put Among Us in our video game because won't Interslaw sue us? I'm like, with what?
Yeah.
Couldn't
But they could have had costume stuff that was
Yeah, they
based
could have
on it
had
too
like
then, and
like
really just
Among
leaned
Us
into it,
outfits and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And hats.
right?
Like-
Like it would have been.
To be honest, like being able to play something like Among Us, with the like in full 3D with like the graphics and the stuff of Fortnite, kind of sounds cool. Like
Absolutely.
legitimately sounds neat. It's just annoying that it has to be sort of that it was done in the way it was.
Yeah, and it either reinforces opinions you probably already have about Epic, or maybe you don't care. Like that's how I see stories like this. It's like, Epic did a bad thing again. It's like, yes, I knew Epic was evil all along. And then everyone else is like, I like playing Fortnite. Do 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 do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is largely again, it's a victim of the same thing that I keep bringing up every time people talk about Fortnite is that Tim Sweeney,
Yeah.
who runs Epic, yes, that Tim anyway, the Tim who runs Epic, Tim Epic, has gone on record multiple times saying that he wants this to be the Snow Crash metaverse. He wants this to be the place where
The everything.
like he wants Fortnite to be the place where people just go, the only place you go to hang out and do stuff, and the stuff that you do is not just running around and shooting people and building things to shoot people from. It's like, no, it's got to be every activity, because that means that people will come there and hang out, and it can be the center of people's worlds, and that would be great because it would be a very unifying thing. And it's like, sure, but also then you sell a lot of V-Bucks on top of that, and you're the only one who controls that marketplace. And I get I definitely understand the push behind that, and the greater like human interaction push built on top of the much more insidious single seller capitalism push is.
Yeah.
If Amazon could do this shit, the Amazon would figure out a way
I
to do
mean,
this
I
shit.
feel like Amazon is trying in different areas, but like watching Epic to me is like waiting for the floor to fall out from underneath them. Like I know they technically have a lot of money, but when I see articles that are like, "Hey, they managed to get like way more active people onto their platform than like Steam in a shorter amount of time or whatever," and I'm like, "Yes, because you're giving away free games." But how many of those people are actually transferring into people who are buying stuff on your platform, once you stop the free games, do they go away? Are you able to basically be like, look at our cool platform, we have so many active users because you're getting them to log in once a month for a free game?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, the Epic Game Store is definitely for most people. I feel like for a lot of, or at least a lot of people, it is just source of free games.
So this is a shitty thing that happened to Innersloth, that they've had this, it's you want to say that it's like, well, imitation sincerest form of flattery, and it's like, yes, but when both sides are trying to sell a video game.
Yeah. Well, and Innersloth is just starting to really get rolling, because like they made Among Us a couple years ago, and it got popular, and now they've brought it. They think they've either brought it or they're bringing it to like the Switch, and they've got a new map coming, so people are excited about that. And then there's so much merchandise stuff that I've started to see that looks like it's officially licensed stuff, and I'm like, yeah, they're just getting their ball rolling.
And the sort of, I don't know, call it sort of victim blaming, but the like, people are like, well, that's what you get for like, not releasing it on X console, or whatever. Or,
wow.
Or it's like, well, if they did something bad, then you should sue them. And it's like, they're like, as Graham said in the story, there's very, very little chance that there's going to be a lawsuit here. Not only because Innersloth is a very, very small company, and Epic is an epically large company, but also like, I don't know if there is actually any. This is one of those things that's like, it's a dick move, but it's not actually like legally actionable, I don't think.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Even if it is, like Epic has so much money, they could just freeze them out with lawyers and paperwork.
Yeah,
and
true. There are lawsuit styles in which you can basically say that it's like you can't. I mean, if Endersloth won, that they'd be like, you owe us for all of our attorney's fees, essentially. But it's like, what do you win ultimately more than the moral victory? Then at that point, it's like you get them to stop, or they just basically turn around and say like, I see, now that you've told us what we have done that has gone a little too far, we will go not so far. We will still keep the mode, but we will take a couple things back. And hey, look at that, like. It's just that it's like, why, if you were going to put this in the first place, why not iterate it on it and make it a more unique feeling experience?
Yeah, it's just a bad situation.
We talked about the like Fortnite PUBG thing, and how that was like settled out of court, back in 2019, I think. So like it's settled out of court a while ago, and I feel like there is a version of this that I don't know if it's would work out well for Innersloth, but I feel like the like there is the outcome of this where it's there's a big stink or whatever, and like the easiest way to get this to go away is just Tencent just like buys up 20% of Innersloth.
Yeah, absolutely.
With like their couch change probably, because Tencent, part of the reason why the PUBG Epic thing went away is because Tencent owns large or a big chunk of both companies. So it's like, don't fight, children.
So if you don't hear anything more about this, just go to Innersloth's website and see if one of the 5 developers has been replaced with Bob Tencent.
Yeah, the well-known developer Bob Tencent.
They might be too small to be like, we have a company that can just come along and buy shares of us. But, yeah. I don't know. If they wanted to sell themselves out to Tencent, I would not blame a small studio for taking the money, to be honest. I know a variety of people have different feelings about Tencent, but at the same time, when you're small and suddenly you have a successful thing and now you can kind of cash out, I wouldn't blame them for it if they did.
And it's hard.
I wouldn't want them to automatically, really, but like, I don't.
The video game industry,
the whole
is a volatile industry.
People have sold out, and like sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I just want people to be able to live.
And it's tough. Like, I mean, I think Among Us, I would commend Innersloth that they've done an excellent job. I mean, it was a little touchy there for a while because like when you're sitting there, you're an indie dev, you put out a game that's like not that successful. It's moderately successful. You're like, okay, there's 3 of us working like at the company or whatever. Maybe it's enough to keep the company going, but it's nothing to write home about. It's like, okay, well, let's move on to the next thing. And then suddenly the game blows up. Like, it's almost as bad as it failing in some ways, because now you've got a ton of media attention on your game that you and like your servers are crashing because you can't handle the amount of traffic that's coming in. Bugs that were previously not visible are showing themselves, and all this kind of stuff is happening. People are wanting updates to it and stuff, and you're sort of the like the way Innersloth has had to pivot and sort of change their whole thing to become sort of the Among Us studio is an interesting sort of thing, and I don't think was expected from them.
No.
And I feel like they have done a good job of rallying.
I gotta say they going with the simplistic design of essentially like little two-legged beans is a strength in a game that gets popular like this, because it's basically like My Little Pony. It's like, oh well, we can easily do a crossover thing because your design's so simple that we just have to attach some stuff to it, and then people know it's another thing as well. Like,
yeah, they can see the collaboration. Yeah.
I do love, much as I respect Innersloth, I do love when they make announcements that are like, the big announcement, we're gonna add another color of like guy. And it's like, it's not like you put out like a new skin for an Overwatch character or
there's
something.
a new hat.
It's literally just recoloring the same guy again. Like, it can't take that much work.
I mean, when they did an announcement during like one of the Nintendo Directs, I think, about like updates, or like that the game was coming and here's some new stuff that they were working on. They did this really clever thing where they're like, here's the thing we can show you about the new map, and it's like one square, and then it goes away really quickly as if that was too much.
Right.
I love the little goofiness that they did with their announcements. Among Us isn't a game I've ever even played, because when I look at it, I'm like, nope, werewolf games they make me angry, and I know I shouldn't get mad at real people in real life for playing the game the way they're supposed to, but I will, and so therefore I stay away from them. But as a design thing, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Next story we talked about was this thing with the Leon Kennedy skin for Lion.
Leon Lion thing.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like 75% of the reason why I marked this story is because it's Leon's thing for Lion. And Leon is just like a particularly kind of easy, like, it's just it's kind of a fun name to mispronounce. So, Lion Kennedy would be funny too. Anyway.
Yeah, so the big thing on this was just, look at this outfit. It doesn't look like this dude.
So the big weird thing with this is that it's an outfit so this is the second Resident Evil outfit. They've also done Jill Valentine for another operator, Zofia. And for that one, it's clear that it's that operator wearing just like Jill Valentine's costume. Like, it's a cosplay effectively. Because she looks dramatically different. For this one, the weird part is this guy's default thing is like a full body outfit with a big mask on. So up until very recently, nobody even knew what this guy's face looked like. And then there was a trailer or something released that where he didn't have his mask on, or it was like a prequel thing. He didn't have his mask on or something. And so we got to see what it looks like. And then they released this, this week, and it doesn't look that much like the little bit that we saw of him in that trailer, and it also doesn't look like Leon Kennedy. And so, Graham's a big fan of the Resident Evil series, and in his opinion, it looked more like a cross between Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield, thus creating Creon Kenfield.
Oh, is that where that was coming from? I'm not
Yes.
really familiar with the series too much outside of the big giant lady that isn't part of like the whole village promotion.
Yeah.
And I didn't see her getting a skin on Sophia or anything like that. But maybe the outfit just wouldn't fit. It's
Well, I
probably
feel
have to
like
be
it would be a
retailored.
real like disadvantage in the game. You know, you'd be like ducking behind a wall and people could still headshot you. You're just being too tall. It would be a real problem.
Yeah, I will note that the line we put at the beginning, Ubisoft, who still hasn't addressed all the ways they're awful, is a very nice shorthand for that. I feel like that is definitely something it still needs to be addressed, and yet it's still there's so many other awful things going on right now, so it's very easy to kind of hide.
A peek behind the curtain too is that when Graham wrote that initially, he had a much longer
Oh, really?
parenthetical thought, and he also wrote the shorter one, and he was like, which do we prefer? And it was like, well, I mean, of course it's important to say the thing, but it feels like when you do that, you're also it's easy to get lost in the sentence and forget what the subject of the sentence, and how the structure works. And so we were kind of like, I think it works better to just narrow that down, and because it is kind of we're not the only ones who do this as well, though, with Ubisoft, right? It's kind of like
No, there are other people as well. I mean, when it comes to companies being awful, like we can go into the reductive reasonings of like, well, all companies on the planet are awful, and they are kind of in some way or another. We live in a capitalist society.
I mentioned that in my next story.
I don't really believe. I believe that as a person, you end up drawing your lines where you draw them, and you just try not to cross them when you can. And sometimes you end up crossing them without realizing it. Sometimes that line might not be as important to you in a certain way because there's all kinds of criticisms and arguments to be made of whether or not you should even play an Ubisoft game, whether it's okay to even buy secondhand, whether it's okay to stream it versus just playing it personally. But I just feel like those are arguments that are meant to get mired down into not fixing anything in the end.
And yeah, I mean the two things I'll say is that one is that to me it felt a little like I like the way we the haven't addressed the ways that they're awful is a nice sort of summation of the thing. I feel like hammering that point so hard on Ubisoft, which we have that done in as we've been going. It seems strange to do that and then not do it to like Activision and not do it to Riot and these other companies that are also facing similar, if not worse, allegations. And I will say, just on the subject of the actual like playing thing, I think it's worthwhile to note that even with walkouts and the various both for Activision and for Ubisoft, there's been like open letters from the from employees and walkouts and all these things. None of the people involved in it have actually called for boycott of the products of the company, because that's fundamentally their livelihood. Yeah. So it's a tricky situation. So like it's not necessarily obviously everyone has their own feelings about what is appropriate or not, and that's totally valid. But it's not the actual people involved in the company haven't they're the people who made whatever Assassin's Creed or the new the Diablo 2 is coming out. I mean, that was made by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds the Diablo 2 remastered, hundreds and hundreds of people who are stuck in this who are working for this company, who are very much against the bad things that happen at the company or whatever, but that's how it is. So
yeah, that's what I mean by drawing lines in the sand. There's personal lines you put in where maybe this is so distasteful to you, you're not even willing to spend money on that, but you're okay with buying secondhand, or maybe you're like, no, not even that, and that's fine. I don't think it. I just feel like there are people who draw their lines in the sand and then have determined that everybody needs to draw the same line, and I
right.
don't think that is correct. I don't think that is right, and that's where I put my lines.
It's weird that these things can be filled with a lot of nuance. How about that, huh?
It's not like a line. It's more of like
We're all just trying to get through this world together sometimes.
It's a sand gradient is really what it is. And then speaking of bad guys that I have fallen off the bad guy list, although I feel like, so Electronic Arts did a thing. I feel like it's not that they've gotten better, but maybe other people have, moved up rather than them moving down, which is not a great look. But anyway, there's this great thing about, so they, Ultima Underworld 1 and 2, Syndicate Plus, and Syndicate Wars, were being sold on GOG, Good Old Games. And then they were going to be removed a couple weeks ago. In fact, GOG did like a big thing where they were like giving some of them away or putting them on deep discount and stuff because they were going to be removed from the storefront. And that made people very unhappy because games are...
Why do they need to go away?
Why do they need to go away? And so Electronic Arts goes like, whoa, ho, hey, just kidding. They have offered an apology saying they will do better at listening to the player perspective, which I like because it's like, they're like, sorry, we misinterpreted what players wanted. We thought you wanted us to remove games so that you couldn't play them anymore. Clearly, we were wrong. We will endeavor to listen to your perspective better in the future. It's like...
Hey, person who plays video game, can I take this video game away? No, don't do that. I didn't realize that's what you wanted, for me to let you play a video game.
It's a little bit of a disingenuous wording, I feel.
Yeah.
I'll give them a little credit for not using the word gamer. Because that typically tends to be the thing. It's like, oh, we're sorry gamers, the thing about whatever. And I'm like, and player perspective has that nice alliteration going on.
Yeah. And it's and what's funny too is it's like, so when I went to, because I was like, I remember EA won the back-to-back worst company in America contest that the Consumerist ran. The Consumerist is now property of Consumer Reports. You can't actually just go there and look at stuff. You have to pay for a subscription to CR if you want to actually see old consumer stuff, I think. It seems that way anyway. There doesn't seem to be like a lot of like, we have all the old stuff, but any new stuff you can't see. So it's interesting to me that like, I'm like, right, yeah, they won worst company in America. Why did they do that again? Because that was like only a couple of years ago, right? That was 2012 and 2013. And I'm like, right.
Yeah.
13 and 14.
13 and 14, right. And so I'm like, there's a site that said 2012 and 2013, but yeah, it's 2013, 2014. So, right?
That's one of those, like, I remember reporting on that on CheckPoint, and it doesn't seem like that long ago.
And it's odd because it was like, so, but why was it again? What was there just like a massive sexual harassment ring? Did they just like forks and like pitchforks and torches against like anybody who's not a straight white male in the industry? It's like, no, EA overworked their employees to 100 hours a week. Oh, they also acquired a bunch of studios and then just, they kept asking, like not asking, they kept forcing them to change their games until the games started failing. They started folding all the studios up. And I was like, right, that's EA's done worse shit since then, haven't they?
I mean,
and I looked it up and I'm like, right, yeah, Battlefront, the whole loot box thing.
The loot box thing was a big 2018 Star Wars game.
Yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2018, the loot box debacle. And I'm like, I remember reading the article where they said, we have a new CEO now. It's 2013. We have a new CEO. Things are going to change going forward. We're going to do things properly. And I'm like, you still can't avoid making
We're-
stupid mistakes.
Wasn't part of the criticism at the time of them managing to get Worst Company as well that it was just a bunch of people who were angry at the kinds of games they were making at the time?
Yes.
More than
Yeah.
those actual criticisms to be made.
It's, and we were just talking about, there are degrees of badness, right? And in some ways, obviously overworking people is very bad, and it's something that is a real problem in the industry. And buying up studios and closing them is also bad, and producing, putting game loot boxes and stuff in games is bad. But it's all sort of within the realm of like business. They're
Kind of what you expect businesses to do.
Yeah, just being, being a cutthroat business thing, right? When you get into the like some of the allegations that are coming out against like Activision Blizzard, where it's like not the general like working people too hard, it's like specific people are being like targeted for harassment and forced out of
Devaluing them as human beings.
forced out of the industry, and
Yeah.
like where it's taking things to a level that's sort of beyond general industry shittiness to like
Right.
actual
like
personal
the,
shittiness.
a couple of weeks ago, there was an article about how a couple of years ago, I think it was in the Activision blast bathrooms, that an employee got caught putting cameras under the sinks facing them towards the stalls.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Wow.
That's like that shouldn't happen anywhere. But you expect a company to be like, oh, loot boxes make us a lot of money. Yes, of course we're putting them in there. Acquiring these companies and either taking the talent or getting rid of them to get rid of competition for whatever reason is considered a business tactic.
Yeah.
Forcing crunch upon your employees, terrible to do, but does happen occasionally when you're trying to make deadlines, except now it just happens forever, which is really the bad thing. It kind of expected.
And this was just a case of like a story where the how do we solve a problem where we said we're not going to make any more money? Well, simple. We'll just decide to make more money again, and maybe they won't make a lot of money off of this because maybe not that many people want these games anymore. But
I mean, I was actually just thinking about this. Like, I wonder if this was actually like a tactic on GOG's part, right? Like a game, like the game is probably like these are very old games, right?
yeah,
And like these are probably running in like DOSBox when you get them, or some of them anyway. So there may be selling like a couple a month.
yeah.
And Electronic Arts goes, let's drop the IPs. It's not worth it to have the IPs out there. We're gonna drop it. We're gonna bring him, take him down. And then GOG, like, because GOG did this thing where they did a big sale and and I think it was either they gave them away or gave away some and did like a big sale on the other one or something like that. But they did a big thing to sort of raise the profile of the game, and so now suddenly a bunch more people are buying the game and doing it. And then those people then find out that it's going to be taken away, and now there's a big backlash or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much conspiracy or whatever.
It seems a little like just a little too.
I mean, it'd be funny if GOG's thing, there was a dude on staff who's like, but I love these games. I have to let more people know about these games. And then they do this sale, and it's like, oh, great, everyone knows more about you all get a chance to get them. That's great, awesome, your last chance, you did it. And then people are like, wait, what do you mean last chance?
I mean, I really do, like, generally it's always the simpler thing. It's just, maybe we took these down because we didn't want to reapply for the licensing, or
Yeah.
we were just like, these aren't making us money and we're just going to take them down for whatever reason. You're probably not expecting anyone, like, it almost, to me, it feels like a parent getting rid of an old toy for a kid because they're like, oh, they don't play with these blocks anymore, and then
The kid
like
sees
2
it in the
days
box to
later
go to Goodwill,
they're like, wait, what? No, I love those blocks, and then they have to give them back. Like, It
yeah,
just
those are
kinda-
my favorite blocks, but you haven't played with them
Yeah.
for 2 years. I don't. Yeah, but I
Never
was
mind,
gonna. I was
yeah,
gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we've all probably had that experience at one time or another.
I lost a lot of Transformers that way.
Ooh.
G1 Transformers, mind you. Die-cast metal G1 Transformers.
So the argument,
Play with
the
your
argument,
toys, kids.
the argument isn't. I want to play with them. It's oh man, they'll be worth
Actually,
a
I
bunch
guess
of money.
Yeah.
Don't just play with your toys. Play with them in front of your parents so they know you still want those.
I miss my Jetfire. Oh well. I can replace it with a Super Valkyrie, and it's no skin off my nose, but I haven't done that yet either. So.
Meh.
And then our final story about I realizing that like most of the stories this week are about corporate malfeasance, but there it is.
I mean, not the Nintendo story. Nintendo
It's
did
true.
great.
Oh, it's true. I skipped the Nintendo
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
That was the fun
And
story.
I realized that was out of deference to the fact that I was gone for a few minutes, so I appreciate that.
But yeah, the Nintendo story, which is just like, victory lap for Nintendo, I guess.
Just watch Beach be
Well,
smug.
yeah, it was great. I
Essentially.
enjoyed that. I had to be reminded that I put that story in the CheckPoint folder to write later because I saw the bad shit and I was like, "What am I going to write?" And Graham's like, "Aren't you going to write the Switch story?" I'm like, "I am."
I was thinking we didn't end up working for the thing, but I was thinking of actually just like when we were actually filming, like getting a screenshot of you looking super smug to actually like and then put that up.
Oh. Yeah.
Those are fun.
If I'd thought about it, we could have tried to have. I could have said to Heather, "Take a screenshot of me looking smug in the story, and then put that over my shoulder."
Yeah, that's the thing I could have done. It's a lot of extra work, but I could have done it.
Yeah. But so the Nintendo story specifically is they swept the top 30 in weekly Japanese video game sales. Pretty sure that might just be physical sales because Nintendo generally does not release their eShop sales.
Yeah, the digital sales of games are always seem to be somewhat up in the air on whether or not certain groups report them or not. Because I don't think you have to in the sense whereas like physical sales, people know from distributors and stores and
Yeah.
that.
But the thing here is that sweeping the top 30, it's like, well, surely that must have happened sometime before. But it only did once, and it happened in November of 1988, which is probably more likely to have happened because back then it was the Famicom, the SG-1000, which would have been the Sega Master System. Maybe the Mega Drive was coming out by that point. I can't remember in Japan.
A lot less competition though.
Yeah. Oh, but I guess if you also count like the Sony MSX and maybe the PC Engine was out at that time, it actually might have been harder to do a console sweep because there were probably a whole bunch of different consoles at the time.
And this is
Japanese ones.
This is console only, not computer games.
Correct.
Eh?
Yeah, Famitsu only does that. The PC-98 was a thing. So it's like doing it now when you only have 3 primary consoles on the market. You take the 3DS out of contention. You really only have, but you have like maybe the PS4 and the PS5, the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X or Series S, the Series, and it's like this is still a pretty big deal that Nintendo would sweep the Switch games would sweep the top 30, and also no other game would sell more than Mario Maker 2's 2,256. I'm like, that seems unlikely that you wouldn't sell more than 2,200 games.
I don't think there's been a big I feel like if something big had come out that week for PlayStation 5 maybe, but then again not everyone can get a hold of a PlayStation 5 right now, so you're limited there. And
yeah, I mean it's again the thing of the like in some like the fact that the 30th one is 200 or 2,256 is more it seems more like not that Switch games are selling amazingly well. I mean, obviously they are selling great, but just other games are selling very badly.
Yeah, that's what more is likely to take away
it's almost
from this.
like because I think the Switch has been like the top selling console for something like over 30 months or whatever, which is like the longest a console's ever done that. And it even did that through a lot of people were expecting that to go away when the Xbox and the PS5 launched, but again they didn't have the supply to outtake that.
Yeah.
And we have like the pandemic going on, so a lot of people are just trying to get entertainment devices and
and I mean we're at the point now where everyone's got a Switch. So I mean, especially particularly in Japan, I would imagine.
I would imagine that's pretty hot there.
Market penetration of Switch, like if you bring out a game the identical game for Switch or for PS5, you're probably going to sell more copies on Switch simply because more people have the ability to play it.
Yeah. Fourth best-selling game this week in Japan was Ring Fit Adventure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still, that's amazing.
Still.
That game's been hard to get over the pandemic too.
Yeah.
They were constantly selling out.
It's an interesting, like I'd be curious to see what the Japanese market is in comparison to, the North American or the European market.
Yeah.
Because
we don't have
a couple
the
of
second
those
best-selling game, which is the Crayon Shin-Chan game.
Yeah, because a couple of the games on the list were Japanese only titles. So.
Sure were.
Mm-hmm. What was number one? It was like Mario Kart.
Was it Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Was it not?
It might have been.
Generally, that game is one of the best-selling games.
Minecraft. It was Minecraft.
Right, Minecraft.
Yeah.
Freaking
That's going to be a poke in the eye
weird.
for Microsoft to be like, we didn't make the list, but Minecraft did. Like, holy shit.
But hey. I feel like Microsoft is less a poke in the eye and more still counts.
Yeah.
It's like, if we can't win with our console, we'll win another way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair
Minecraft
enough.
it's on the top of the list all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
But our last story that we were talking about was to do with Riot, which is another company that has been under increased scrutiny for the past. They were sort of, in some ways, they were the ones that kind of set off this most recent barrage of companies being called out, because back in 2019, I think they had a big kerfuffle.
I think I remember reading articles. Riot sounds like a terrible place to work.
The harassment culture is quite...
Yeah, there's some definite problems with it, yeah. And of course, then they brought in, third-party people who looked at it and went, we'll fix this whole thing. Yep, no problem.
Yeah, and they kind of fell under the
it's all
radar
better now.
after that.
And they also, what is actually interesting, and what we didn't get into in this story. So the story is about that the same Department of Fair Employment and Housing that is currently working on Activision Blizzard has also there's no actual legal action yet. They've sent out, but have sent a statement, or sent a statement saying that Riot is not in compliance with their
telling their employees to that they can talk to people.
Yeah, telling employees that making it so that employees can, or making sure that employees know that despite a what do we call it, like a non-compete, a NDA, non-disclosure agreement, they can still talk to the government about things that have been violations of either actually illegal or violations of labor codes or whatever. And that's because they've been doing an investigation. It sounds very similar to what they were doing with Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
They've been doing that same kind of investigation into Riot for the last couple of years as well. They haven't actually locked in on anything on Riot yet, but that investigation is ongoing. And one of the things that didn't make it into the story is that because of this thing in 2019, there was a class action lawsuit by a number of current and former female employees of Riot, that they were, in addition to whatever harassment stuff, they were also being passed over and being underpaid in comparison to male employees doing similar jobs and stuff. And they lost, Riot lost that and had to pay something like $10 million in court for that. Or maybe they didn't lose, but they settled. I guess they settled.
Probably settled. That seems like more likely.
Which is significant, though, because Riot did not disclose during that lawsuit that they were currently under investigation by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which might have changed the opinion of the people who were going to, or like settle, like if you're going to settle, it's like knowing
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you're
that's
in a
true.
position where the company wants to settle with you and you know the company is currently under investigation for other bad things, you might be inclined to push the company a little farther in terms of getting more money out of them. So that
This-
was also put forward as a bad as a sort of bad faith move.
Now, this specific story, though, is about the fact that the DFEH came. This is them speaking up to say, like, to remind Riot.
Right.
And as it says, publicly remind Riot, it's like, you were supposed to tell current and former employees that they are allowed to talk to us, and you haven't done that yet.
Right.
Like, it's them coming back to be like, we told you to do this. You haven't done it, and now we're going to let everybody know that you haven't done this yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to start doing that.
And Riot came back with saying that they, like, with the little, to be fair, they came back with the thing from the severance, you know, their severance agreements with these people, that there's a line that says
You can talk to cops.
you can talk to the government on subjects that have legal ramifications or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The question is, you know, whether that's like buried somewhere deep in the contract, and
Or if the
very-
tone of giving it over is like, yes, technically you can do that.
Or if there is, because the thing is, it's one thing for an agreement to say something, but it's another thing for an employee to say, keep in mind that this is a non-disclosure, like part of your severance is a non-disclosure agreement that says you cannot talk to anybody what went on here at the company. If you make a blanket statement like that, and it's like, oh, except you can talk to the government. If the government comes asking, you're allowed to talk to the government. You can. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. They're meaning it might just have been one of those like Bob from HR things. I think I mentioned Bob from last time we did ChillPoint, but it's like Bob from HR being
Earlier
like,
today.
just so you know, you're signing a severance agreement that is an NDA. It means you can't talk to anybody about anything that went on here at the company. Okay, cool, great, sign that. I got to do the next one now. And he's not thinking about, like, he has a brain fart and is like, oh, wait, no.
We put it in writing, so if I don't say it, it's not a big deal because they should have read it.
Yeah, and it
Kind
just
of
is one of those, like,
thing.
I made a fuck up that I didn't mean to. That's the generous side of me saying that could have been what happened, or it could have been Bob from HR being like, well, shit, I don't want anyone to know that my buddy Jeff from marketing is going to get hauled into court on this, so I'll just tell people to not say anything about the company to anybody. Like, it could be a little more malicious, right? So,
all right. Let's. And then they're coming up with just about Castlevania Grimoire of Souls, which looks pretty neat, except apparently it got kind of bogged down with microtransactions, which is a shame.
yeah, the twist on this was the fact that it came out in Canada back in 2019, September 2019.
Right.
We had it first. It was soft launched in the West, only in Canada.
And we
And
in Canada had it first, and we in Loading Ready Run completely missed it. Not
Yeah.
in the sense of reporting it on CheckPoint, and also in the sense of, hey, I wanted to play that.
yeah, and it's odd because it came out at the same, roughly about the same time. I think that Symphony of the Night came out on iOS as well, but it's just like this got ignored. And it was, again, though, it was full of in-game currency
And
and
this is a new
microtransactions.
Castlevania, right? This
Brand new.
This isn't like we took an old Castlevania and remarked it for the phone.
No.
This is
This was
this is
new.
a new Castlevania, although it was marketed as a sort of spiritual continuate. Like, the marketing has like the original like 2D. It's like the original like 2D Castlevanias. It sort of starts with that and then shows this is like the next iteration.
Yeah, and the downside, and because I do want to mention that it's like they axed it, but now it's going to come to Apple Arcade, and Apple Arcade has rules about microtransactions. The rule, I think, being that you can't have any microtransactions. People are already paying, subscribing to belong to the service,
Right.
so that doesn't belong to the.
a
Yeah,
real-
which means
it's
they'll
game
have
anymore.
cut those out.
It's
But
a real solid rule.
But what's weird about this is that I was super excited because I love Metroidvania Castlevanias, right? And I was so looking forward to this, and they're like, "Hey, so new thing, new game, and look at how awesome and all the fighting and whatever." I'm like, and it's like it'll be on iOS. I'm like, well, I could use a controller if I need to. I'll figure that shit out. We've got an Apple TV. I can cast it to my TV or whatever. I can join Apple Arcade for a month and try this thing out. We have 60 levels. Wait, what? 60 levels, you say? Not, we have one giant ass world that you can, or even like, hey, you can travel to different smaller worlds through picture frames, like in that other game that everyone seems to, Order of Ecclesia or whatever the hell it was. Was it Harmony of Dissonance? I can't remember which one was which. But it's like none of that. It's like you have 60 levels. Oh, we have daily challenges and weekly challenges. I'm like, oh, this is a mobile game.
Yes.
This is Castlevania, a mobile game. Yeah,
because that advertising that Paul described, where it shows a bunch of things and then shows the phone with the thing, that's very much like how they like to TV advertise every mobile game I've ever seen, and it's the worst way to advertise a mobile game.
Because I had to watch gameplay videos to actually see that somebody was playing through it at TGS. They were playing through it, and it was like, oh, you get to the end of the thing. And then you go back to the hub world and you get to like, I want to play another level. And you play another level. I'm like, okay, this is for smaller consumption. Yeah.
It's a mobile game.
Yeah.
It's probably grindy as heck too if it had transactions in it. I'm gonna let you know that because the way it was looking, I'm like, this is probably a thing where you if you paid for something, you probably got a lot of boosts and stuff, or maybe you got to continue like a 25-cent in the arcade machine kind of coin.
It has a score counter.
But I'm willing to bet that part of that was they made the levels really grindy so that it would be really hard to get to the next one.
I gotta say, there's some stuff in the especially like the Symphony of the Night, Circle of the Moon, some of the GBA, the 2D Castlevania games. That also involves a ton of grinding.
Yes.
And man,
oh yeah,
there was definitely a couple things in there where like if I could pay like $5 to not have to do all this grinding, I probably would have.
Yeah.
Sure.
To get the
And
stupid
that's
like
fair.
I've killed this stupid one skeleton like 500 times because there's a 0.2% chance that he drops the thing that I need.
Right.
Who
Anyway,
makes the Castlevania games again?
Konami.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't trust them with microtransactions. It's Konami. Automatically. No.
I feel like regardless of what name he said, you could have said that as a response.
Probably. I mean, it's a mobile game, and microtransactions on mobile games are very... I have played ones that are pretty decent, where it's like, yeah, you're just paying to unlock everything, or you're doing whatever. But I've also played the ones that are very much... the game is going to become frustrating until you pay.
Oh, pay like $3, and the clock tower doesn't have any Medusa heads in it.
Oh Jesus!
I would
Every time.
I would almost do that. Let's talk about some other stories. There was a big Pokemon event. I think the biggest Pokemon Direct that they've ever done. Is that? I thought I read that somewhere.
28 minutes or something. It was fairly long for what they typically do.
I believe it was Pokemon Presents is how they referred to it. Yeah,
but people call them directs.
I know.
They used to do Pokemon Directs, I think, at one point, and then they started calling them Pokemon Presents.
Yeah.
So the two big things that they were talking about was Pokemon Legends Arceus and the Pokemon what is it? Not Soul Silver.
Diamond and Pearl.
Right.
Brilliant Diamond and
Shining Pearl.
Yeah.
Right.
I forget which
re-releases.
word goes with which one, so I've just been like, oh, the Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Right. And showing off a bunch of for Pokemon Legends, they're showing off a bunch of the new Pokemon. Some of them like they're I don't know if they've actually shown off any like new Pokemon yet.
Regional Pokemon.
So far they've been like the regional variations, yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's been in love with the new what's the name
Growlithe?
of that dog?
Growlithe.
Yeah, everyone loves new Growlithe that has like bangs down over his eyes.
Yeah, very
and
fluffy.
And a big beard. And he's very fluffy. And I love the way that like Twitter, I guess, the sort of style of talking on Twitter has wormed its way into like actual, like Kotaku and stuff, right? So like the headline will be like I will die for Growlithe or something. Like that will actually be like the headline of the story. Or like new Growlithe is awesome and I will die for him.
Yep.
Or
It looks like
and
a
he must be
really,
protected at all costs or something like
like
that.
I'm excited for this game because I like the main series of games is always rinse and repeat a lot of the time in terms of what you're going to do, which is fine. They're still fun. But I'm always interested in what Pokemon spin-offs do, and this one being a thing of like, so you're in this region that's basically an ancient version of Sinnoh, and you're going to observe Pokemon, and they're all going to be on the map, which I love, and you have to do a variety of things to actually fill out that Pokedex. You might have to catch that Pokemon like 10 times, or watch it, or feed it, or something. There's like a list of tasks in your little handmade Pokedex.
Is it also like real time battles or something?
The battle system looks like it's a little bit different. They had what they called strong and agile attacks, which changed depending on which one you did, changed the speed of the attack in the list.
I fight strong style.
And if you took strong, it's like it's a slower attack, but it hits for more, and agile is like a faster attack, but it hits for less.
It has active time battles.
And it looks really neat. So that was interesting. It also, I went to the website and they were like, oh yeah, you can go to the camps and do crafting, and I feel like that's how you make your Pokeballs. And I'm like, I have to go make my own wooden little Pokeballs.
Out of like bamboo spheres and stuff. It's
probably, I don't know.
I do like
just
the idea.
paint a rock red and white. Chuck it at
just
something.
throw it. Yeah.
I caught you with my Pokeball by hitting you in the head with a rock.
Fuck! Jackass! Anyway, the you were explaining to me that how it works is much like with our initiative tracker that you see on Dice Friends, is that it's showing
it looks
that
like there's a list of like who gets to go, and depending on what move you pick, it like changes around who's going in the list based on like your speed stats and stuff.
Because it has that kind of like diplomacy mindset
Yeah.
of everybody puts their moves in at the same time. So you enter your moves, and then it's like, okay, well, you picked an agile move, so you're actually going to bump ahead of the other guy, except that he picked an agile move, so he's going to bump ahead of you because his speed's faster.
If you hit faster, or maybe if you do the right thing, you maybe knock out their ability to have their move.
Yeah, which is kind of the Child of Light thing, where it's like, if you can, which I really loved about Child of Light, which is made by Ubisoft, who still doesn't apologize for all the terrible shit they've done.
No, that's a good game.
But that was a great game. And had that whole thing of you can time your moves to interrupt somebody else's attacks, and it's like that's a really cool idea. It's
interesting because it's not what you usually see in Pokemon for a fight.
Yeah,
that I know of. I mean, I've been a little slack on my Pokemon game playing, but
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one of the other not new things, but one of the other things that people are happy about in Pokemon Legends is that they're going to have customization for your character, which has only been like a relatively recent innovation in the world of Pokemon. And so not only do they have this new Growlithe that everyone loves, but you can also get a Growlithe like outfit to match it.
Yeah.
Hopefully not like made of Growlithe. I don't know what.
Shit!
Yeah, it's unclear. I think that might be. I actually think that might be the reason people have been. I've seen a few people refer to this game as Monster Hunter Light, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to be Monster Hunter Light in that way. But there are going to maybe be elements that you would have seen in a Monster Hunter game.
Pokemon Presents also brought out Cafe Remix, Pokemon Cafe Remix.
They're redoing Pokemon Cafe Mix and calling it Pokemon Cafe Remix. They did a whole little section on their mobile games. Nobody cares about that. Yeah. Let's just talk about
Pokemon
Diamond
Cafe
and Silver.
Mix Remix.
I mean, Diamond and Pearl, which also is going to let you have fashion choices. Ooh. And we'll let you have your Pokemon walk around with you, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the most important feature in a Pokemon game now.
So you can,
and how dare they don't allow it in other games?
You can like coordinate with your Pokemon.
Yeah.
We talked briefly, Heather and I last night talked briefly about the idea of mainline games versus spin-off games.
Yes.
And if we put the mobile universe aside for a minute, when you talk about like the Pokemon mainline games, where you're red, blue, or red, green, whatever, and Diamond and Pearl and Gold and Silver.
It's okay. You don't have to name them all.
But
We
it's fine. But
understand.
that kind of thing. And then it's like, but then we have Pokemon Let's Go, which is
It's a remake of the first one.
exactly right. It's a remake of Gen 1, but it's so different in terms of what you can ride on your Pokemon, or they follow you, or they ride on your shoulders, or whatever. Like that kind of thing's happening. You can see all of them in the grass and like all around you.
Yeah, they brought that feature out actually in Soul Silver and Heart Gold, which is why I'm disappointed it's never been, and it took them forever to bring that feature back.
But they also did things like adopt the Pokemon Go mechanics of you have some motion stuff and like and different things like that. And it's like Pokemon's been out for 25 years. This is the point I was making last night.
Pokemon has been infinity.
Yeah, Pokemon's been out for 25 years. Clearly, there are people coming to Game Freak who were like, when they were 5 or 10 years old, had played the original games, and have now gotten a job working at Game Freak, be they as a developer or as a producer or as something like a writer or whatever, who have been like, I loved playing these games. I have always played these games as a child, and I always thought how cool it would be if I could do X. And that's, I think, what has always like led to this push. And I think Game Freak's big on the idea of, well, if you have some neat ideas about where to push the game, we were thinking about making a spin-off. What would you do? Like, I would love to do Green and Red, but I'd love to bring some of that stuff from this and some of that stuff from that, and these ideas to do this. And Legends Arceus, I don't know if it's a hard C or not.
I don't think it. You know what? I'm not going to get on anyone's case for pronouncing it a certain way.
Legends Arceus is like, here is a new spin-off game that is an opportunity for people to say, this is how I want to see this game being, like how I'd like to see it be developed.
It's like what would Pokemon be like if we were making it new now? You know, like if we weren't, you know, if we didn't have all the Pokemon mechanics and stuff already locked in, if we were making it now, what would it look like? It's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
The way
and then it might come back to the main line.
Yeah, like, and the way I see it is the mainline games are almost a paint by numbers in terms of like mechanics and the fights, and you got to go get your 8 gym badges and that kind of thing, and then we fill in the rest with like a new place, some new Pokemon, maybe a fun fashion show section, or the Pokemon Ami section of like getting to brush them, or camps or whatnot. But the spin-off games are, we can kind of just do things differently because we're making a different type of game. So no one's got expectations necessarily that like Detective Pikachu is going to go around get into Pokemon fights in the same way, right?
I would like an. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Pokemon audience, like the Pokemon playing audience, I would say is probably more adverse to change than most game. Like I mean, and Game Freaks has sort of trained them this way that they don't like their Pokemon games changing much.
The big problem Game Freak has is they set themselves up to always have all of the Pokemon available in every game, and then we hit Sword and Shield and they said, no, that's ridiculous. And I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner, because I'm like, if you had set the expectation of each Pokemon game has a different set of Pokemon, and part of it is that you made this Pokemon lifelong friend and you're porting it forward all the time and you have it with you, which is a neat idea as well. But I kind of feel like at this point they need to stop just making hundreds of new Pokemon, and they need to focus in trying to do other different things.
Like, we don't have platypuses in Canada, and that's fucking fine. So it's like, you don't have to have all 900 Pokemon in like, it's like Kanto's weird because it's the only Pokemon that only has 151 Pokemon there. They don't have any of the other 800 goddamn Pokemon. That's odd. That's super weird, right?
I mean, they brought it on themselves. I mean, it's not gotta catch most of them. Gotta catch a lot of them. Like,
chat, if you're gonna send Lure a platypus, you know which platypus you have to send. It has to be Perry. I will not accept any.
Perry the platypus?
Yeah. Sorry, B.
I'm going to take this opportunity to be remarkably shitty and also 100% right on the internet. I've gone to Bulbapedia.
No.
Bulbapedia says the following, and that's Aruseusu. Aruseusu. And I don't know, Game Freak comes up with all the Pokemon and all the Pokemon names, and Arceus is how it's pronounced.
I don't care. I'm calling it Arceus. I don't really.
That's
give
fine.
a flying
I'll just be
F,
right.
And I hate this version of you, and it needs to go away.
So let's move on from Pokemon
Please.
and their pronunciation. And talk about...
There's a cuss sound in Japanese. They could have put it in there.
Localization.
Do not argue with me, chat. They could have put a cuss in there. They didn't.
Call it something else. Shut up. I'm sorry about that. We need to stop, please.
Super Monkey Ball
Mute us.
is a different
Okay.
game.
Thank you.
And it's a game that they've been teasing. There's a new Super Monkey Ball coming out, and they've been teasing like special that there's going to be like unlockable characters and
I think
stuff.
it's a remake, isn't it?
I don't.
Or like a collection
Super
of stuff
Monkey
that's
Ball
already.
Banana Mania. I don't know if it's going to be a remake or what. But anyway, there's going to be a bunch of unlockable characters. Sonic and Tails are going to be in it. I mean, it's a Sega game, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that
also
makes
it's
sense.
a Sega game, which means the other one of Sega's big properties right now is Yakuza. And so there's going to be like a cartoon, super deformed version
Kazuma Kiryu, yeah.
of Kazuma running around in a hamster in a ball, which like I don't know if that's what the ball always looks like in Super Monkey Ball, but at least the ones that they're showing in the thing looks like a gachapon ball, like with the two colors and stuff. And
They do actually look that way, I believe, in all the other
they all
games,
look
too.
like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
From what I remember from the GameCube days,
Okay.
yeah.
So this means that Hatsune Miku can also be in this game because that's also a Sega thing, which means that I can cross over Kiryu in the Hatsune Miku games, and they should definitely do that because he sings. I'm pretty sure he sings karaoke in his own games, so he'd fit right in.
And what's her name? You from Space Channel.
Oh,
Ulala.
Ulala.
Yeah, she could be in there too.
Just get Super Monkey Ball. Like I mean, if you're
all
doing the
the
Sega
Sega
crossovers, just do it. Go
Yeah.
hard.
It's like Sega, what are you saving these characters for? Put them in. Come on.
You know how Ian has mentioned multiple times that the reason why Yakuza is such a popular game in Japan is because old salarymen only get a chance to buy one game per year.
This is his theory.
This is his theory, and so therefore they buy Yakuza games because they're like, that's the only game allowed to buy. Well, then I'll buy that because it's every game. So are we just going to eventually see just Sega's going to be like, F it, and they're just going to start folding all the games into the one game and just be like, you want to play Super Monkey Ball? Fine, that's actually in Yakuza now, and you can run around like Kazuma.
It might be in a Yakuza game for all I know. I know that
You can play Outrun.
Pretty sure you can play all of Tekken.
Yeah,
in
play
one
Hang
of
On.
them. And there's just there's like the weird investor.
I just want to have like
Minigame
Seaman,
and-
but with Kazuma's face.
I'm surprised they haven't put. They should put Seaman in
Yeah,
in that game.
they don't though.
I know that's gonna sound dirty, but I don't care.
Yeah.
There was a great thread posted from a former Bethesda developer talking about Skyrim development and the most amazing glitch. So the intro of Skyrim has you're traveling along in this cart.
Right.
And they had this problem where suddenly during the development and the debugging process, suddenly this cart started randomly flying into the sky.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't doing it before, but now it was. And not all the time, only sometimes. And it turned out that the reason why the cart was going careening off into the sky randomly is because they fixed a different bug, which was about bugs, because there's a whole thing where you can catch bees in the game. And it apparently the collision detection for catching bees wasn't working properly. And so they fixed it. But apparently how they fixed it made it so that bees are effectively like immovable objects
Yep.
with infinite mass.
Yes.
And so occasionally in the intro, the cart would be do 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 and hit a bee. and
you can't see it because you're not looking in that direction.
and the bee would just catapult
The bee would be
cart
like, "No,
into
you
the
move."
sky.
Bees are real powerful.
Did you read the one about the foxes?
I don't think so. What was the one about the foxes?
Folk stories in Skyrim are that if you follow a fox, it will lead you to treasure. And that's like a very popular thing that Skyrim players know. And the devs are like, that's cool. We didn't put that in the game. And they try it. They're like, holy shit, you're right. The foxes always lead you to treasure. Why is that? Well, somebody related this whole thing on Twitter, and one of their coworkers who had a little more advanced knowledge about how the game works says it has to do a lot with nav mesh and AI, levels of AI. So Skyrim has nav mesh, which means these are triangles that are laid out on the map you can't see, that are paths that characters will take.
Right.
And if you have like a place like I don't know anything. Whiterun, is that a place in Skyrim? Sure.
A city.
Right.
Town.
So if you're in Whiterun, every NPC follows nav mesh as how they will get around. But what that means is to make it look realistic, they have to pack in a lot of triangles, so that if they're moving around, they have a lot of options for where they can actually move to. And in combat, that's especially important. You need the NPCs to respond to combat and be in ways that actually make sense and give them lots of options. But when you're in the wilderness, you don't need as much nav mesh because it's just running across the wilderness. So what you do is you use much larger triangles. And so every vertex is a very long distance apart. Now, there's 3 different priority levels for AI. There's the high priority, which is what combat takes place in, but it's also what a lot of NPCs will work in. There's low priority, which is what the AI is determining what NPCs you can't see that are like thousands of miles away from you, what they're kind of doing on the day-to-day. It's like, you should be in this location, you should be doing this. Then there's medium processing, which is the kind of, you're not in combat or whatever, but you do need to be given some priority to be figuring stuff out, but you're active. Right. And because of the way the fox works, the fox is never in combat, so it always falls into the medium level mode, which means the decisions it's making is a little more rudimentary than what high level combat decisions would be being made. So what the fox wants to do is get the hell away from you. And the AI figures that I need to cover 100 triangles of distance to get away from the guy who's following me. So it starts to run across a triangle. It's like, well, that was a really long distance, but I need to cover 100 as fast as possible. The best way to do that is to find where there's a lot of triangles and cover those triangles, cover 100 triangles as fast as possible, which means you might have to run across some big ones, but you start looking for smaller and smaller triangles so you can start getting to areas where there are tiny little triangles. And those are places like camps and ruins and places that have treasure chests.
Yeah, so secretly, that rumor is true.
Yeah.
So the fox is basically like, is almost showing you that hidden mesh.
Yes.
It's acting like a dowsing rod.
Yeah. And it will always try to move towards the most triangles, because it's trying to limit the amount of time that it's moving, so the AI doesn't have to calculate out more movement. So it tries to move towards as many triangles in as small a time as possible. And what's funny is, Heather's telling me about Ghost of Tsushima, where if you play with a fox and the fox likes you, the fox will lead you to treasure.
I don't know if you have to play with it, but
just
I'm
there.
pretty sure the foxes will lead you to places that are important.
Yeah.
Places that you need to go.
Which means that
probably means they took that from
Skyrim. They're like, oh, foxes lead you to treasure. Why don't we put that in our game?
Like I'm making an assumption there. But I'm assuming that's why maybe they did that.
And the other thing I like about that is it's effectively the AI tricking the devs. Like the devs gave the AI this job, which was get away from the player.
Yeah.
That was what the AI was being trained to do.
Yeah, and do it as efficiently as possible.
Was to move 100 squares away from the player.
Yeah.
And the AI basically did the lazy thing. Like, it did the, the lazy thing, which is sort of what they're trained to do. But it's like the AI did kind of like slacked off and was like, hey, I could do way less work if I just go to the place with a lot of triangles. Like rather than giving the AI a job to go like a specific distance in real world, they gave them the triangle. So
we should probably finish off
Yeah.
the Skyrim news with I know this news came out like later in the day while you guys were filming, but they're making a new anniversary edition or something. It's coming out again, I think,
Oh,
So
great.
for stuff in case that's important.
I feel like Skyrim has that it's the like the painting the Golden Gate Bridge thing that by the time they're done releasing Skyrim on all the products and all the different consoles and all the services that it's released on, they get to the end and it's time to do a remaster again.
yeah.
Like
Jesus.
Let's see.
Skyrim is on so many things.
And just like, okay, is there? I mean, I know games get reported and brought out again, and it's like, oh, this like Skyward Sword, 10 years later gets.
Boy,
gets
people got
report.
mad about that,
and, And you know that there are people who are Zelda fans who've never played it, and now it's on the most recent console, and I'm like, Skyrim just seems to come up for so many things that I don't know if there's anyone left who really wants to play. Like, if you haven't played it yet. Really, are you going to by this point?
Yeah, the impetus to play Skyrim has got to be pretty. You got to be like, nah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
If you cared, you would be able to have played Skyrim at this point. I'm not saying Skyrim is a bad game. Far from it. Everyone, and part of the reason why it's been ported to so many things, it's been very popular on lots of things. But it is a highly ported game.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that I think the last major console it got brought to ultimately was the Switch.
I think the last one was the Switch. But that's what I mean. Usually, I'm like, okay, sure. There's going to be kids who haven't played it yet, and I'm like, do they parse these out far enough for that to even happen anymore? Though I'm not sure that they do. Just well, I guess we'll talk. We'll see it come out again for PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
All right, I think
Assuming it's already on 5.
The story I left for last here because it's an EVE Online story.
All right.
So settle in.
All right.
This requires a little bit of explanation. EVE has been basically all through the pandemic and a little bit before it. There's been a big war going on in the world of in the universe of EVE, and not a little one. This is the biggest war, both in terms of players involved, systems involved, money in terms of resources involved, and because EVE does have the way you can buy, you can use ISK to buy player pilot licenses. There is a sort of a way to a translation of ISK into dollars, even though you can't get money out of it. But more than $3 million worth of ships, worth of resources, worth of ships, has been destroyed over the course of this battle, over the course of this last 18 months or so.
Okay.
And basically what it is this massive coalition known as PAPI, P-A-P-I, has been on a quest to destroy the Imperium, which is another huge coalition made primarily by Goonswarm people. So from old Something Awful people is sort of where it started.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's been going back and forth. It has been dubbed World War B2 on occasion.
B2?
Yeah, because I guess there was already a World War B.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's referring to the like the system that anyway. There's these basically these I think we've talked about this a little bit over the last little while. They've been having a couple these massive these massive battles that get so big that they basically destroy the CCP servers because you can't have that many people in one system at a time.
Right.
And so the battles like slow down to a crawl, and then just like the server crashes.
Oh.
So then they've had to do other things to do battles and stuff. And then partway through, in October. No, wait, not October. Anyway, partway through the battle, this conflict, CCP actually released an update to Eve that changed some stuff. Right.
Oh, shit.
Which is kind of a weird thing to happen in a war. But so basically, what happened?
Oh man, there was an update in the middle of the war. Oh
yeah,
no!
They changed some stuff, basically making it so that building ships required more diverse materials than what previously. There were a bunch of resources that were basically useless in the game that people didn't really bother mining. And then they made it so like a bunch of the ships required some of these resources that were previously not used for anything. And so now suddenly these two factions that have, huge war chests and huge numbers of players, it's a lot harder for them to rebuild their fleets. Because the fascinating thing about war in EVE Online is it's all a propaganda thing, because nobody can really die, obviously.
Right.
And when your ship is destroyed, you kind of fly away, and you just have to like buy a new ship.
Right.
And then you can come right back. And so it's all a propaganda. Like you have to basically make you have to make it so that the opponent either gets bored, like the other team just gets bored and won't want to come back, or they get discouraged that they aren't making any progress and stop coming back. And so they've they fought back and forth, and basically this was like this faction, the Imperium, was a very large faction, and basically the entirety of the rest of EVE declared war on. Like that, it was basically them versus everybody.
All right.
And they won. The Imperium won.
Okay.
Through various this I guess this change that they made didn't worked for the Imperium better than it did for the other team. There's so the guy who runs, when we've talked about this guy before, the guy who's in charge of the Imperium, the Mittani, sometimes referred to as Mittens, he's been in charge of the Goonswarm fleet for like years, like over 10 years, I think. And he's like kind of incredible as like he's just like a regular guy, but apparently is at like such a high level. And they're doing, you're doing psyops, they're doing undercover operations, they've got all sorts of, like it would be for a real battle plan stuff. And he's giving like there's like live streams where he's giving like speeches to his troops and stuff and things, and he is actually like a pretty charismatic speaker. And there's this thing, there's sort of victory stream where he's talking about like, they came for us and but you all fought and all this stuff, and then they're like, and now they're running away, and they're like, okay, I guess we lost, and he's like, no, the war is not over. You don't get to you came after us. You don't get to decide when the war is over. We will find you, and we will come back we're going to come back at you. And so it's like, oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, all right.
So things are really popping off.
I'm guessing this also means because of the lack of certain resources that everyone's now like, oh shit, we got to make some mining trawlers or something and start heading out to like mining for materials they haven't had until now. Or is
Yeah,
it really just down to I can just buy stuff and I don't have to worry about getting those materials yet?
I don't know. To be honest, like I don't
Okay.
know enough about the thing, but
Yeah.
I find
That
it
does sound fascinating.
I find it fascinating. And if you have a chance, there's I think it was linked to on Polygon or whatever, but um, the um, the live victory address that that he gives is quite amazing as like a thing. Just being like, and just like they've got like the chat up on screen and stuff too, and so everybody's going wild, and it's like, wow, this is actually like pretty impressive, the so anyway, uh EVE Online continues to be a totally bizarre like experiment in player created stories
Yeah, no joke.
that
The
I am fascinated by and don't actually want to play at all.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
what I love about this idea though of they changed a piece that they didn't update in the middle, and I was immediately just thinking that it's like imagine playing PUBG and then just dropping a live update, being like, oh, by the way, bullets move slower. What? You've already fired your gun, and the bullet just like it like slows down mid flight, and you're like, that's weird.
I feel like PUBG's not like a thing where that's very likely to hit, because if they're going to do updates, it's probably like service maintenance and
Sure.
stuff, so you can't even get on.
But the other thing about
But
this update to me is like that's it almost is a way to be like, okay, you are all building giant ass ships, yes, you're all mining places and doing whatever. If we change the composition of what a ship requires, it's almost like saying you are undergoing a drought, a dearth of resources. Because it's like if I need like 10 borasses to make my giant capital ship, and nobody has been mining for barasses, then it's like then at that point it's like, oh well, why do we need barasses all of a sudden? It's like, well, because we've decided to use less wood to make a capital ship because we're actually getting low on wood. So we're gonna supplement that by using barasses to fill in the blanks on our capital ships. And yeah, bare ass is what I meant to say, not bore asses. I don't know who would ever say bore asses, but anyway, bare asses. And I'm like, that is kind of like in State of War, you might be like, we're using all of this steel. We need more steel. We can't get steel. Well, what do we do? Can we make it out of an aluminum alloy? Can we make it out of some other metal that we have access to? We got to make it out of something. Like that's what it feels like to me, is that they've said we're going to change the composition on you because now you're running out of resources. You need to find your resources.
I like to think that this update is for resources that already exist, but maybe they haven't really had a use for them yet, and they decided this is how we're going to do it. And then you have a whole bunch. You get to find out which gamers are the ones who are like, well, I don't know what this is useful for, but I'm keeping, versus the gamers who are like, oh, this junk is useless and get rid of it.
Or but also the gamers who have been like, I don't want to fight in a war. I just want to mine some shit. Oh, new shit to mine? Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, you all laughed at me when I mined bare asses. Now
it is I, the bare ass king. I need a different name.
I wish.
No, bare ass king is pretty funny.
I wish to join your fleet with ships composed of wood and bare ass. Known to be extremely airtight.
Anyway. I mean, I've never heard of bear farts, so I have to assume their ass is just airtight. So
yeah, right.
Really good for hot air balloons.
So I think that is all the news we want to talk about. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Let's see what we got. We got coming up. We've got Friday Night Paper Fight. Where we're going to be playing some Kaladesh Remastered drafting.
Yeah, on Arena?
On Arena, yes.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, it is the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Ian's going to be playing Assetto Corsa. And going to be going for a very long time. And who knows? some of us may drop by in Discord. Probably
Now,
not in person, but
the time says 7 a.m. But I do know that Ian intends to start a little earlier, maybe around 6:45 for like a what
Right.
he's calling a pre-show, which is probably going to be like setting up and getting everything going and just talking as well. So you might want to show up a little earlier if you can manage it, but if not, it is 24 hours. You can watch it in shifts.
Yeah. Please appreciate the amount of work he puts into doing this prior to the show, as well as also the amount of work he puts into playing for this for 24 hours as well. Because this is both of those things are a Herculean undertaking, I think.
I also want to point out that the artwork we're showing down there is new.
oh
Yeah.
From last year, and I know that because I watched him have a conversation with Graham about like, can we do something fancier?
I love the I love the Gulf livery he's got going on there. It's really good.
Ian is going to be playing from home.
Yes.
So
So most of us are gonna like maybe join in on a Discord chat channel with him, and that means we get to spook him. But it also means if it's broken for any reason, he can't hear us. We're gonna have to text him.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, immediately, Ian's going to have a few hours to sleep, and then he's going to come on to Rhythm Cafe with Heather, because never yield.
Yep, it's his turn in the office. We've also played this game before. This is an attempt to finish it because I think we're close to the ending. Oh, we got some new
Nice.
we got outfits we got to unlock.
And Wheeler is going to be continuing on his is this your card of Gwent?
Nice.
And then on Monday, Wheeler is again going to be coming back because he's going to be starting a play it forward of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
All right.
Heather and I finished It Takes Two today, so on to the next play it forward. And I'm not sure what days he's going to be doing those, but so that starts at 10
Well,
on
looks
Monday.
like Mondays at 10 a.m. at least.
And then Corey is going to be drawing things that may or may not be horses on Can't Draw Horses Club. And Beej and Adam and myself are going to be playing some more Gnomes 100 Dragon Zero.
I feel confident about our chances this time.
I think so. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing pretty good.
We only had to throw away about 2/3 of the game mechanics to actually make some progress. So
Yeah, that sounds
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, as long as a heavy finger in the bookmark as we flip around to be like, nope, that didn't happen.
It's when you playing with a book, you kind of get to make your own rules because it can't stop you.
yeah,
It's true.
Not like when we were playing that game of chess earlier.
Yeah.
We played chess.
Good.
It did not
giant
go.
chess.
I actually tuned in briefly to
Oh.
see. Yeah.
It didn't go well.
I forgot the king couldn't take pieces. That's why I'm complaining about the computer not letting you do things. I think
The
if
king is allowed to take
The king
pieces.
can take pieces, but the piece you wanted to take would have made you
Put you in check.
Put you in check,
oh,
you
I
would
wasn't
have-
paying
you
attention
would
to
have
that.
Yeah.
which is a shame because then I would have won.
Says the guy who didn't notice he could have taken my queen like 3 times.
Oh, you're playing versus each other. Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, we were
It was a
playing
bad scene.
a quick version, so we each had 5 minutes, and basically the only reason I won was because Paul ran out of time. Because
Yeah.
you got to run around the board to get the piece and like figure out where it's gonna go.
no.
So it's a lot harder than like looking at the whole board and getting to figure out what you're doing.
All right. Let's welcome some people who subscribed during the stream. Starting with Drazvin for 4 years. Thank you very much.
Hey, Beach got gifted a sub by an anonymous gifter. Paul and I did earlier today too.
Nice. Oh, that's good. Ilinri is a brand new sub. Welcome to the channel. Glad to have new faces here.
Planeswalker Go-Go for 22 months.
Salkheim for 21 months.
It's always gratifying to get new subs on this stream, especially.
Yeah, it means
Yeah.
that they saw us and they liked us and we haven't scared them away.
And Ferrobender tossed in those 300 bits. I didn't even have to show my feet this time.
Yay!
Yay. No feet. Duh bits. Duh bits.
Thanks everybody for watching. Be back in a little over an hour with Friday Night Paper Fight. But until then, talk to you later.
Bye everybody.